Hello and welcome. It's another Confessions podcast, which is going to have, as a one-off special, a bit of a drum roll here. Yep. Stand by. Here it comes. I don't know why I did that. It's a Confessions podcast from Radio 2. Thanks very much indeed for downloading this latest masterpiece. Anyway, here come this week's confessions from everybody seeking forgiveness from our caring collective and you too. This week's concise collection features a pair pulling the wool over a Polish priest's peepers, an Olympic scandal involving dopiness but not doping, so we gave up on the alliteration there, a number of nether regions in the Netherlands, and a nail-biting mistake from a baker. Anyway, here it all comes. Here's tonight's tale, and it comes from Jim the Sinner. Sounds as though he's judged himself, really.
I like this one already.
How come? Why?
Jim the Sinner.
I think Jim just needs to forgive himself.
Don't we all, though?
Don't we? In fact, I don't know, do we?
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
So Jim says, Dear Father Simon, brothers and sisters in the faith, the story I'm about to tell you happened around 20 years ago in the wild mountains of eastern Poland. During the summers, I used to hike with my female friend, Katie, sleeping in a tent sometimes for 2 weeks and enjoying nice weather and beautiful views. We are just good friends, you understand, and definitely not like when Harry met Sally. Anyway, normally it goes great, but this time everything was wrong. Only a week had passed and so far it had rained every day. It rained all the time. There was plenty of mud and also warnings of bears.
Wow.
Which is going to take the edge off things. We were truly exhausted and fed up of sleeping in the never-drying tent. That night we walked into a deep valley where we found a tiny village, around 10 houses and a church. We had so much water in our rucksack, we decided to ask if someone would give us a room for the night. But no one had a spare one. However, we were told that the local Catholic priest occasionally gave room to hikers. There was only one problem. We were told that he would only give us a room if we were married. We looked at each other and laughed. I suggested to Katie that we pretend to be married so we could spend at least one night in a warm and cosy room. Luckily, not only did she agree, but also she had a flat ring that looked like a wedding ring, and she moved it to the right finger, and we went and spoke to the priest. He was so happy to see such a young couple and already married, and he gave us a room. It was so simple. There you go. That's the end of the story. It was, of course, too simple. That night we were asked if we would join the priest, 2 nuns and a few teenagers from the Catholic camp at the bonfire. Well, we couldn't say no. Soon we were all sat around the bonfire and Sister Marta, one of the nuns, introduced us to the kids. She asked us to tell them about marriage.
Oh, very good.
I stood up, looking frantically... It's another voice.
Yes.
It was another voice. Where did that come from? I stood up, looking frantically in my head looking for something to say. I looked at Katie, who was smiling nervously and encouraging me to say something. So I told them that marriage was good for you. It was just good for you, and that people should marry. And if in doubt, don't live in sin. Sometimes for many years, I would encourage them to marry and follow our example and get married.
Okay. Pretty strong message there. No.
When I finished my speech, I was met with a round of applause. I sat down completely exhausted, and Katie kissed me on the cheek, showing her true marital affection. That night before we retired to bed, we were stopped by the priest. He praised me for the speech and asked if he could use it in a Sunday sermon. He said that we were so inspiring, he wanted to tell his flock all about us. I was speechless. I thanked him and said I was humbled. He smiled, he looked at me and Katie and suggested that maybe it was time to think about the next step. We looked puzzled and he said, having children. Maybe not tonight, I said nervously. He didn't laugh. Anyway, we thanked him a lot for the good wishes and went to the solitary bed, which was unusual and challenging, but perfectly respectable, and not at all like when Harry met Sally. Next morning we left. The priest, the nuns, and all of the kids turned up to wave goodbye to us. We never went back. We also never married, but we are still friends, which is a warm and encouraging thing.
It's a good thing.
Dear Father Simon and the Holy Collective, I beg you for mercy, please forgive me for basically lying to the priest, lying to the nuns, lying to the teenagers, who I'm sure are all now happily married, all inspired by my speech, and to all of the parishioners who heard about us during the Sunday Mass, because that's a lot of people that we messed up with. Jim the Sinner, P.S. Did I mention the rain, the mud and the bears? You did mention the rain and the mud and the bears. Innovative, creative, thinking on your feet. I think people are going to be very forgiving because you're mates. There you go. That's the thing. I mean, not in that way, but, in the other way. What do you say, Sister Bobby?
Oh, it's tricky, really. I mean, it's such an unusual story that you have to... the lying thing, of course, I would normally have a difficulty with, but I think actually it's such an unreasonable request to put on people that you'll only provide them with a bed for the night if they're married. When they could reasonably be good friends. Aren't people allowed to just be good friends? That seems to be unreasonable from the priest's point of view. I think the priest
Maybe
was
that's
unreasonable.
What's wrong with society? What do you think, Matt?
They were just friends. It's okay just to be friends. That was all right. And also, there were bears, wet bears as well.
Wet bears are out there. And under those, I think there's a papal encyclical which says if there's a wet bear out there, you're allowed to share a bed with anyone.
Yeah, listen,
isn't that the new trend?
You just, you can top to toe it. It's fine to share a safe sleeping space. I don't think you really need to be forgiven. I think actually it's the strangers that are sitting around a campfire with young people, and they say to you, "Tell us about marriage." What do they want you to say?
Yeah,
it's such a weird thing. Well done for carrying it off.
You could say, "Father Wozniak, please. There's a wet bear.
Yes.
Can we come in?"
Well,
and Father Wozniak is going to say, "You're very welcome. How whatever your relationship."
Yeah.
So forgiven, Jim the Sinner. I don't think you're a real sinner.
I don't think he is.
I don't have a lot of sympathy with the rain, mud, burrs thing, because what did you expect? You were going to Poland, it was going to rain, and there were burrs there. You knew that was going to happen. What were you thinking was going to happen? That. So, no sympathy there. However, where's this priest getting off with his, I'm going to ask you questions about when are you going to have children? Tell you what, Father, why don't you potter back to your quarters, pal, without asking questions about that? And I'm so inspired by a couple that get on. Really? You never met a married couple? Well, recently married couple before, clearly. So, and we've all had to do. We've all had to pretend to certain people that you're married, the person you're with, because
Who did you pretend to?
It was in Spain, very at that time Catholic country, and
yes,
you only had enough room, enough money for one room. So,
I see.
And so you had to be
Father Sandro,
separate
let us
beds.
in. Yes,
so
we're married.
It wasn't a priest. It was a hotel. Anyway, it was not a very good hotel. So we are going to forgive. All of us in this room going to forgive.
Whether it was a good hotel or not is not the point.
Well, it wasn't.
The point is you went up to this poor Spanish hotelier.
Well, we knew we didn't have enough money
lied
for
in
2
English.
rooms.
Was it your wife?
No, it wasn't. It was the person.
Someone else.
It was the person.
You were with another woman.
No, it was. This was many years ago.
Your Spanish friend, your super
somebody
special
I was
Spanish lady.
Not involved with in any way, and nothing obviously happened. It was 2 beds
Do you miss
in the
her?
room, but we didn't. No, we didn't. It was just the one.
I bet you
Anyway,
weren't expecting
there was
the
no need
Spanish
to go down
Inquisition,
that
were you?
particular path. It was. We all forgive. Well done.
This one comes from Gin in Hereford. Pronounced with a hard G, Simon. That's what Gin says, so that's what I've done.
So not gin.
Not gin, no.
Y or an I?
Eh?
Y or an I?
What?
You said gid. Y or an I?
It's an I if you want to write it
Just
down.
checking. I did.
As long as you say gin, then that's
Gin.
perfectly fine. I thought Y on I was some kind of profound expression. Get on with it, Mayo.
Yeah.
Dear Father Simon and the All Forgiving Collective, says Gin with an I. Sadly, I've recently had to clear my parents' house, which has been evoking many memories. It was only the other day when I happened to find a collection of newspaper cuttings from the 2012 London Olympics. And it brought back to mind an incident which I feel responsible for. You see, it was my persistent, excited nature on this particular day in 2012 that resulted in an embarrassing incident for my entire family. Now, as a family, we've always loved watching the Olympics, and back in the 1970s, it was gymnastics and the delightful Olga Korbut and the brilliant Nadia Comaneci who inspired me most. My dear departed father always encouraged my sister and me to run fast, play sport and keep fit. He himself missed out competing in the Commonwealth Games in the 50s through injury. Well, just imagine my excitement when I heard that the Olympic fever would be spreading my way as the Olympic torch relay was coming through my city. On top of that, my godson Pete, who was part of the relay team and in charge of one of the coaches, would also be back on home turf. And to top it off, the sixth form college where I was teaching would be hosting the teams as they took a break. In fact, my textiles department even printed flags to wave. Can you feel my excitement? Could it be more exciting?
No.
No, it absolutely couldn't be. I hear you responding instinctively. Day arrived, the bunting was out, the streets were lined with hundreds of people and the students were doing very little work. The torch made its way through the cheering crowds and I was so proud of my godson who was doing a brilliant job. I was having a wonderful Olympic moment. Now, this is when I knew I had to contact my very elderly parents who were on the torch route to get them out of the house onto the street to experience the love and the excitement. I really, really wanted them to make the effort, and I was persistent and I was excited and I called them up. My eldest daughter was visiting them and I really, really wanted her not to miss out this once-in-a-lifetime event. She was not well at the time, but I pleaded with her to go to her grandparents' house. I shot back to work but did not start teaching. Oh no, I got straight onto the computer to track the torch relay route. Would my parents get themselves together in time to get a good position? I knew it would be stressful, but it would definitely be worth it. I couldn't wait to work out and find out what went on. Well, they did indeed have an Olympic experience, but it wasn't quite the one I had anticipated. You see, they had left it a little late and the roads were all closed and blocked off. My mother, who was driving, asked for advice from a policeman. And at that point he goes, fine. She asked the policeman, that's all you can do. If in doubt, you ask the policeman, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yes. He said it'd be okay to turn into the next road, which she duly did. And that's the moment when, to their utter dismay, they realised that they had joined the actual torch relay procession. Along with the coaches and the VIPs and the security, the crowds were lining the streets, were cheering and waving at my parents, presuming that they were of some importance. My daughter was mortified and tried to hide. My poor father was very, very, very cross and kept saying, "Get me out of here! Get me out of here right now!" But there was definitely no way out for what turned out to be 2 hours. Hi! I'm so proud of my mother for keeping her cool and for driving sensibly. In the end, all three decided that the only thing to do was to relieve the embarrassment was to join in and just wave back to the crowds as though they were important, as though they were royalty. Hi! Father Simon, I have always felt guilty for insisting that my very elderly parents and poorly daughter should get involved and that they landed up in this highly embarrassing situation. I need to ask for forgiveness from my daughter, mother and beloved late father for my excited persistence and from the crowds of onlookers who waved enthusiastically, thinking that they were VIPs, even though they had no idea who they were. I know part of the Olympic experience is cheering on people you've never heard of before. That has never been true of what happened 4 years ago. Yours, Gin with an I, in Hereford. How about that? Very exciting. A good comedy moment. You can imagine this very elderly couple just waving. I mean, you'd think, well, they're clearly...
Obviously.
Olympic, maybe they won medals in Rome in 1962.
Yeah.
Tokyo 62.
Tokyo 62.
No. 66? No.
No.
64.
64.
Tokyo 64. They won in Tokyo 64. But let's treat them with respect. No, it was just Gin's mum and dad. What do you say, Sister Bobby?
I think that's a lovely moment when anyone has to kind of look after their parents' valuables or do that clear out when they're no longer here. You know, there's so many opportunities where you could be really upset, and I think this is lovely that you found this pile of papers that reminded you of this event where your dad was cross and your mum was worried and your daughter. I just think it's a lovely, beautiful moment. Also, you planned this so they would have a nice time. So all the intent of good was there, and you made sure that your daughter was there as well to give them support, and your mum was there driving, and also it was the policeman who actually gave them the wrong advice. But also he might have misunderstood, and actually the wrong advice was actually in the end the right advice because they got the best view ever.
I wonder if
had a unique experience.
I wonder if there's some people in Hereford who got photographs of these very important people going past, and actually it turned out it was just Gin's mum and dad. Also,
his dad didn't make it into the Olympics, did he? Because of the injury.
No, not the Commonwealth Games.
The Commonwealth Games, sorry. So I think he gave your dad a unique experience. Well done, forgiven.
What do you think, Brother
This does that torch relay. It gives me a tingle down the the spine, because I just remember when that was happening 4 years ago, that was the point where I realised this is going to be great. Everyone's really buying into this now. So, it was just seeing so many people decked out to welcome the torch in. So, I am definitely going to forgive. The one thing about this that makes it hilarious is that it was 2 hours. 2 hours there in this
Waving,
car
exhausting.
with your man to get me out of this procession for 2 hours.
I need a
Brilliant.
sherry. Get me a sherry, Marge.
So, no, I love this story. Isn't it great? So, yes, definitely forgiven.
Dear Simon and the All-Forgiving Collective, the confession which lays heavy on me happened not years ago, not months ago, but a mere number of days ago. I feel I have to confess it now, or it will sit heavy on my conscience forever. My family, that's my husband, 2 boys and me, decided that this year we would venture on a cycling holiday onto the continent. We went to a place which we're going to call the Netherlands, says Jane.
Well, I think we'll all call it the Netherlands.
Shall we all call
won't
it the Netherlands?
Yeah.
It's a sort of a mystery. It's like a code name for Holland. Laden with panniers and water bottles and helmets, we set out to the train station. After enduring a hot and sticky ride to the ferry, we were delighted to arrive across the channel in this place called the Netherlands. We really enjoyed the beauty and the culture and the amazing bike paths, a waffle or two, the chips with mayonnaise. That is a good thing. I think the Dutch invented that.
Chips? I think
chips and mayonnaise?
No, the Belgians. I'm not sure.
Could have been the Belgians.
I think there could be some fisticuffs if you.
Between the Belgians and the Dutch?
Yeah.
That's never happened.
Anyway, and a few beers. Obviously, the children didn't. We do try and be responsible at times. Having seen the requisite number of museums and bell towers and market squares and pottery shops, we decided that we would venture out to the seaside. Leaving our luggage at the hotel, we cycled the 12 miles to the edge of this particular bit of the Netherlands, which is where the misadventures began. Thirsty, hot, and a bit tired, we dragged our bikes down to the first bit of beach we encountered, and to our delight found a cafe and a toilet. The cafe owner was a lovely man who greeted us politely and answered in English that he did indeed serve lunch. Yes, he was open. Yes, we could use the toilets. While I ordered our lunch, this lovely man made lots and lots of suggestions as to where we could take the children in the afternoon. Had we seen the festival that was about 1 kilometre up the beach? No? OK, had we seen the ice cream and gift shop that was 1 kilometre the other way down the beach? No? And then he played his trump card, so we thought, were we aware that the best Pokemon Go spot was a mere 500 metres the other way up the beach? In fact, it was a Pokemon gym stuffed with rare Dutch Pokemon. Looking unconvinced, apparently, he said, well, there's a Squirtle and a Butterfree and a Pidgeotto. Apparently that's a thing.
Okay.
Anyway, I still looked unimpressed. Well, I reassured him, our boys, residents of landlocked Nottingham, were happy, thank you very much indeed, with solid traditional virtues. Family-based activities, would happily spend the afternoon building sand castles, burying each other, paddling, and all the other things that one must do on a beach. He smiled a little awkwardly and left us to enjoy our lunch. We clearly hadn't got the message. Looking back, I think he might have muttered, well, at least I tried. And so it was that the first thing my husband said was, look at all those funny people in the water. Oh, I answered, yes, it must have been a spontaneous event, as none of them are wearing swimming costumes.
Oh, not again.
Back in the well-worn territory. As we looked around, we realised that indeed everyone else had been spontaneous too, and incredibly forgetful. None of them seemed to have remembered their swimming suits. So it was that we spent the afternoon surrounded by very forgetful Dutch bathers who didn't have any tan lines. Apparently this part of Holland is famous for its forgetful bathers. But we'd missed that bit in the tourist information.
Yeah.
So now, here's the thing, Father Simon, I need forgiveness, not from my children, who for the most part remained oblivious to the ongoings on the beach, and the fact that they'd been denied the best Pokemon Go stop in what we call the Netherlands. But I do ask, I suspect you might be hearing a bit more about that, Jane, by the way. I asked forgiveness from the kind cafe owner who, despite his best efforts at persuasion, distraction and suggestion, failed to move a family of somewhat dumb holiday-goers from a small stretch of beach full of happy and naked sun worshippers. He clearly knew what we were heading for. Yours, Jane, seriously making sure that my two boys don't forget their swimming kit this term. Well, you can. I suppose you can see how it happened. The Dutch guy was just thinking, I need to steer them away. You would have thought. Plus, if you got two young boys and you got a pokey gym just up the beach, that's where they're going to want to go. So, Jane, I hope your youngsters aren't checking this one out, because otherwise you're thinking, well, we had to sit there with all those forgetful sunbathers when we could have been collecting a Pidgeotto. Is that worth a lot?
I don't know.
No.
Don't know what to
Come on, Bobby, you should be on top
Well,
of
I
all
thought
this.
it was a Dutch description, actually, of something, local, like
Look
a
over there,
regional
Dad.
museum.
Is that a Pidgeotto I can see? Don't you talk like that. Wash your mouth out. So what do you think, anyway?
What I love about this is actually that she had 3 gentlemen with her. Obviously, her 2 little boys and her husband. And no one seemed to really complain or go, oh, look over there, Mum. Not really, it was
Is that a Squirtle? It's a Pokemon from the Pokemon store.
Yes. We all know.
It's worth 25 points.
Correct. Well done. Move on.
But also that poor man. You're right, absolutely, that poor man trying to stay away. The thing is, the Dutch speak brilliant English. So I'm wondering why he wasn't more explicit, because, the Dutch are known for plain speaking. They're not shy about anything. So it's a wonder he didn't explain in greater detail. I'm a little bit surprised. But, he did try to help. I don't think he really needs an apology. He made a gentle suggestion. You turned it down. I don't think he really upset anyone. In fact, it seemed that everyone was really happy. Your husband, your 2 children were obviously very young and not interested, so no one was really bothered.
Apparently okay.
I think
they
forgiven.
weren't bothered and they couldn't
It was
remember
all
a
right.
thing. Have you ever forgotten your swimming kit?
No. There's one thing in life I've always remembered, and that's to wear something on my person. So I think what I would have liked here, if I'd been in her position, is for your man to be a little bit more. Don't talk to me in code. If it's a nudist beach, tell me that's what's going on.
So is it the guy's
go,
fault?
Oh, you might want to try down there, or there's Pokemon Go gym, or there's the museum selling the ice cream, perhaps. No, just tell me. Here, everyone is very much as nature intended. Very much the nether regions in the Netherlands. Boom. Well done.
So you call it the Netherlands as well?
Yes, it is the Netherlands, yeah. So I am going to forgive, because I think it really is his fault. He should have said, do you know what, maybe go somewhere else unless you want to be, kit off, as it were. So there you go. I believe that's what it's called.
So we're forgiven?
Forgiving, yeah.
Forgiven, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Karen Alice sends in tonight's confession. Here we all gathered round. Let us know what you think of this. People's verdict due on 88291. That's Karen. Bobs.
Oh, this is a Karen Alice.
That's what I thought
Yeah,
you
well,
said.
that's
I was
obviously our
confused.
full name, which just got supplied by mistake.
Oh, shouldn't reply.
So let's just say it's from
Kaz.
Karen Smith. Karen Jones.
2 first names.
One of those. My story dates back, I think it's okay. My story dates back to July 77, when, having just left school, I was just about to embark on the next stage of my life. This entailed starting work under some government scheme for school leavers, whereby local businesses were funded to employ us for 6 months. I'd managed to secure a job with a local bakery in the town of Heswell on the Wirral, where I live with my parents. My starting day duly arrived, and full of youthful vigour and enthusiasm, I carefully selected what to wear. I put on plenty of war paint. I wouldn't be seen dead in my teens without full makeup, just like Mad today. Took forever to get my waist-length raven hair just so, and to complement the look, decided to put on a truly magnificent set of extra-long fake fingernails, painted crimson to match my lippy. Again, just like Matt. The bakery opened at 8 a.m. and I had been told to get there a few minutes early because the first hour was always completely manic. Leaving at 7:45, I passed the butcher's shop on the way. And as I did so, I remember the 3 young butchers calling out something about sausages. Anyway, we moved on.
Different times.
Arriving at the baker's, that's what else are you going to? That's what they're selling.
Yeah, sausages.
They had a special offer. That's right. There was
Bangers for sale.
It was reduced.
4 for 3.
So they were just anyway. Arriving at the baker's at 7:55, I was met by the baker's wife, who ran the retail side of the business. She was a large, formidable lady whom I seen from time to time when buying myself a sandwich or a donut. She looked at me rather disdainfully, and she informed me I had to wear a white coat and that my stylishly coiffured hair had to be up and not hanging loosely. Who did I think I was? I'm Karen Ellis. She thrust a coat... Or Smith. She thrust a coat at me, announcing it was the smallest they had. However, it enveloped my size 8 frame with room for at least 2 friends to join me. Then she gave me what appeared to be a large piece of cardboard. This, as it turned out, had to be folded intricately to form headwear to cover my locks. So embarrassing. Needless to say, I had far too much hair for the Blue Peter-styled headgear, and I felt I looked quite ridiculous, but the owner and the woman working at the bakery said it looked all right and would have to do. I was put to work immediately alongside another girl on the counter, serving the freshly made bread and cakes. Luckily, the different breads had their name tags and prices clearly displayed, so I didn't have to know what a crusty cottage loaf was or a large bloomer. And with the cakes, I just got the customers to point at what they wanted. Just point at that one. The left, that one. We've all been in shops like that. Oh, you want that one? 3? Okay. All in all, the start went off quite well, and I took to the serving and selling like a duck to water. However, after about 20 busy minutes, I realised there's a slight problem caused by my magnificent fake nails. They were too long for me to be able to handle the money easily, and I found it really hard to get small change out of the till. Also, the nails had a tendency to dig into the loaves, and in particular, the soft cream-filled cakes. And I kept getting loads of cream under my fingernails. Anyway, you should have thought of this, I would have thought. Anyway, I had a light bulb moment, and I decided I could easily take them off. Brilliant. I mean, who would have thought? So less than a minute later, the nails were removed. However, these nails had cost me a lot of money, and I wanted to keep them to wear on Friday nights at the disco. Again, just like Matt. So I decided the safest thing to do was to pop them into a little white bag that I found, and I left just on the side. They would be safe there.
Yes, definitely.
Well, whenever there's a confession which has that line of ego, they're almost certainly not safe there. Well, the morning whizzed by with lots to learn and pointing customers to serve. One of those, until lunchtime approached. Around this time, I was vaguely aware that a gentleman customer in a suit was asking to see the manager. I didn't take any notice of him. Just as I was thinking that I fancied one of the baker's delicious-looking filled baguettes for my lunch, the baker's wife called me in a shrill voice, "Karen! Step into the back shop now!"
No, it's Monty Python again. Here it comes.
Oh, good, I thought. I can ask if I can have a discounted lunch. Blimey. Well, upon entering the baking area, I was confronted by Mrs. Baker and a man I quickly realised was her husband, the baker himself. "Karen, can you explain this?" she demanded. "Explain what?" I asked, all mystified but slightly cocky. "This," and she said in an exasperated tone. "Oh, this." Thrusting a white bag towards me, I looked inside, and to my horror, I found myself gazing upon a large chocolate-flavoured pastry horn from the 1970s, with a bite out of it, filled and adorned not with hundreds and thousands, but with my fake nails. All 6 of them. Much as I wanted to deny any knowledge, I knew that this was impossible because my co-worker had commented how long my nails were, and I would probably be made to cut them short. I was given a written warning by the baker's wife on my very first day at work. But despite the setback, I completed my 6 months at the bakery, was given a good reference, and spent the last 39 years in retail, so I lived to fight another day. However, the forgiveness is needed for not wearing the nails in the... Not for... She's defiant. Not for wearing the nails in the first place, because I should have been given some guidelines before starting work. Not for causing trouble to the baker's wife and costing her money, because she was a stuck-up old bag anyway, who refused to give me back my posh nails. She's got an attitude, Karen, hasn't she? Not to the baker himself, who actually seemed to think it quite funny by the silly smirk he had on his face as his wife berated me. Now, I asked forgiveness to the businessman, who, it turned out, came to the bakery every morning to buy himself a sweet treat, but never again chose a chocolate cream horn. Maybe he swallowed a fake fingernail. Maybe they just fell off. We will never know. But everyone lived happily ever after, as far as I'm aware. Hope you like the tale. The best wishes. That's from Karen Smith or Jones. One of the two. Well, it seems to me, if you go and work in a bakery, point number 1, fake fingernails. aren't going to work. Whatever the fashion, even if it's 1977, I don't know, Bobby, were they all the rage in 77?
I was quite young then, too young for long fake fingernails, unless I was dressing up, of course, because I wasn't that old at the time. But what I was going to say is, where were your parents and guardians at this time to advise you on kind of suitable wear and attire for your work? However, I also know that parents do tell youngsters this, and they do their own thing anyway, especially when they've got peer pressure and they want to look their best in front of their mates and with their, in the shop front. The thing is I kind of forgive you for kind of trying to get away with it, but I have to say is you don't seem very generous to the couple that employed you.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, I just thought that was a little bit mean. I mean, yes, they should have given you advice. Maybe they shouldn't have given you a written warning on your first day. I don't know. I don't think I can forgive you, because I think you should have basically had some common sense and thought maybe fake nails at the disco, yes. First day at work, no, unforgiven.
Nails and lippy, do you go with that? You've got to have them matching, Nigel.
Yeah, well, Jennifer Patterson, the two fat ladies, she would always have full diamond earrings and beautifully done nails, and I always thought it was rather alluring. Did you wear nails, false nails, Matty?
No,
Not since he moved. No.
There you go. Well, actually, I work very near, one of my places of work, near a baker's, Darvell's, and they still have chocolate cream horns, and it is some of their things are like throwbacks to the 60s, and they don't have to wear boxes on their head anymore. They've got these rather fetching bandanas, which I think I've seen you sporting before, Bobby.
Anyway, on the confession here.
Yeah, here we go. Yes, the upshot of that was it wasn't her fault, and she did confess, and she didn't try and lie or anything. So I think the fact that she did everything that she thought she was going to do, I know she was a little bit of attitude there, but because she didn't try and hide the fact that they were her nails, and she didn't get them back, you are forgiven, Alice Jones-Smith.
And what do you think about that, Brother Matthew?
Well, how did she get away with this? This is like day one. She turns up with these nails, these talons, and a massive hair, and thinks that's going to fly in the bakers. That's going to be absolutely fine. And not only does she do all of this on the first day, they keep employing her for 6 months. This is unbelievable. There was clearly no one else in this town who could work behind a counter, because she was managing to hold that down for 6 months and kept it going. Unbelievable. I'm going to not forgive.
Not forgive, okay. Well, they were this week's confessions, and pretty good in places. Who did you forgive? All of them, I'm reckoning, this week. Or maybe just the third one. Send in your secret. Maybe it's provoked a dark thought in your soul. Unburden yourself. Go on. confessions@bbc.co.uk. More in a week. And all our shows from the last 30 days are on the iPlayer. On Monday, David Baddiel was in to talk about his latest show, which is My Family, not the sitcom, getting great reviews. We celebrated another Tuneful Tuesday on Tuesday, extraordinarily. Abbey Road was the location for our chat with Ron, Paul and Ringo. They were talking about their new Beatles CD, live at the Hollywood Bowl, and their brand new movie, which is called The Beatles, 8 days a week, The Touring Years, with a colon and a hyphen in there. And Nige served up Turkish eggs for some reason, and then added yoghurt, chorizo, butter and mint. Anyway, all the details can be found on the Radio 2 website. Just head for Thursday's episode page, toggle down until you hit the recipe. 7 hours later, you'll find it. Anyway, if you get this far in the podcast, if you want to tweet me the following word, just to let me know you're there.